Welcome to your deep dive. Today we'll be looking at this pretty interesting book. It's called Come, Let Us Reason Together. The Harmony of Faith and Logic in a Skeptical World.
Yeah.
I mean, even the title kind of makes you think a little bit, right? So we're going to be diving into how faith and logic can work together.
Yeah.
Especially in a world that often sees them as like...
totally separate things.
Yeah, totally opposite.
You know, one of the things that really struck me about this book is how it uses the fall of man to explain our modern obsession with evidence and proof.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Okay, now that's an interesting connection.
It's almost like we traded pure, unquestioning faith for this need to like see, touch, and prove everything.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. Like we lost our ability to just trust after that whole, Apple incident. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. The book starts off with a quote from Isaiah that says, "Come now, and let us reason together."
Right.
And that's a pretty bold statement, don't you think?
Right.
Coming from a religious text.
Yeah, it is. It really flies in the face of this idea that faith equals blind obedience,
Right. It's not just believe, don't ask questions.
Exactly.
But then it goes on to explain how our need for proof might actually be a result of the fall.
Yeah.
Like before that.
Before that, faith was just natural for Adam and Eve.
Right.
They didn't need evidence. They just trusted. But then after the fall, humanity became dependent on our senses and tangible proof.
Huh. It's a fascinating take.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder if that shift towards the tangible is what led to our modern obsession with material things, always needing more, bigger, better.
The text definitely argues that this focus on the material world comes at the expense of the eternal and spiritual.
Yeah, and that's something I think we can all relate to on some level, right?
Oh, for sure.
I know I get caught up in the stuff sometimes instead of what really matters. And I like how it talks about investing in what truly satisfies.
Yes.
That really hit home for me. It made me think about how often we chase things that just leave us empty in the end.
Yeah.
So it's not saying like logic is bad, right? Throw your reason out the window.
No, not at all.
But it's more about how we use our reasoning.
Exactly.
Like maybe faith isn't the absence of logic, but a different level of it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it's getting at. It's about recognizing that human intellect has limitations. There are some things we just can't fully grasp with logic alone.
But how can we use logic to approach something that's ultimately beyond our full comprehension?
Well, it is a paradox, isn't it?
It is.
But the text argues that faith isn't about abandoning reason.
Right.
It's about acknowledging that there's more to reality than we can currently understand.
So it's not an either.
Yeah.
But more like faith expands on our ability to reason.
Yes.
Takes us further.
Precisely. It's like our brains are amazing tools,
yes,
but they're not the be-all and end-all. There's a whole realm of understanding that lies beyond what we can perceive with our senses and analyze with our minds.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these two seemingly opposite ideas can actually work together.
Yeah.
But the text also asks us to think about what we're truly investing in.
It does.
And it uses this striking image of Jesus knocking at the door of our carefully constructed logical frameworks. But he's not knocking to break down the door.
No.
It's not about destroying reason. It's about, completing it.
Exactly. He's offering a partnership, a way to integrate our human understanding with something much greater than ourselves.
Okay, now this is making me rethink a few things.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about where faith fits into your own life.
It does.
How it interacts with your own logic and reasoning. Is it something you've, reasoned through, or is it...
Well, it's a profound question. The text doesn't shy away from pushing us to examine our own beliefs. It asks, is your faith informed by reason? Does it encompass the eternal?
That's some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah.
It's not giving us the easy answers, but pushing us to wrestle with these ideas, which honestly makes it all the more intriguing, right?
It does.
And then just to add another layer to all of this, it concludes with this suggestion to pray.
Right.
To seek a deeper connection with faith. But of course, it presents it as a suggestion,
Yes.
Respecting everyone's individual journey.
It's an invitation, not a mandate.
Yeah.
A gentle nudge towards exploring that connection for those who are open to it.
This conversation has really made me rethink some of my own assumptions about faith and reason. I'm starting to see how they can actually work together.
Yeah, it's fascinating how a single excerpt can spark so much reflection, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we're just getting started.
Yeah.
I have a feeling this conversation is going to stay with me for a while.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does make you think about how we approach faith. Using reason as this tool.
It is a tool, but are we always using it for good?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, sometimes we can get stuck in our own echo chambers, only accepting the things that,
support what we already believe.
That's a great point. It's so easy to fall into that trap of confirmation bias, just using our reasoning to justify our pre-existing beliefs.
Yeah, it's like, my mind's made up, don't confuse me with the facts. But this text seems to be pushing for a different kind of reasoning.
Yeah.
One that's more open, more humble.
Yeah, exactly. It's about approaching these big questions with a sense of curiosity and a willingness to be challenged.
Which requires a certain degree of faith in itself, right?
It does.
If you're clinging so tightly to what you think you know, you're never going to be open to new ideas.
Absolutely. It goes back to that leap of faith we talked about earlier, but it's like a leap of faith in the way we think. Acknowledging that there are some things we just can't fully grasp with logic alone.
Yeah, this is making me realize that maybe I've been too quick to dismiss things I can't fully explain.
Really?
Like, just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it's about embracing that mystery. The unknown. Our minds are incredible, but they're not infinite.
Right.
And there are mysteries and truths that lie beyond the reach of our current understanding.
So instead of just hitting a wall and saying, well, I can't explain it, so it can't be real.
Right.
Maybe faith allows us to keep exploring.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. Faith allows us to engage with those mysteries, embrace the unknown, even when we don't have all the answers. It's that bridge between what we can know and what we can't.
I'm thinking back to that image of Jesus knocking at the door of our, logical constructs. It's like he's not trying to force his way in.
No.
He's not trying to destroy our reason, but he's trying to add another dimension to it.
Yes. He's offering a partnership, a way to integrate our human understanding with something so much greater than ourselves.
Okay, but how do we actually live that out?
Yeah.
How do we actually live out this harmony of faith and reason in our everyday lives?
That is the million-dollar question. I don't think there's a simple formula or a one-size-fits-all answer.
Yeah, it's not something you can just Google.
Exactly.
Right.
But perhaps it starts with just being honest about the limits of our own knowledge. Being open to learning and growing, and being willing to let our faith inform our reasoning, and vice versa.
I love that. It's like a constant dance between the two.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where the real magic happens, when we stop seeing faith and reason as these opposites, but start seeing them as these complementary forces that work together.
Exactly. It's not about abandoning one for the other, but finding that sweet spot where they enhance each other. Sometimes I get so caught up in the intellectual side of things that I forget to tap into that deeper well of faith.
I can relate to that. I think we all have a tendency to lean too heavily on one side or the other at times.
We do, for sure. Like, sometimes I'm so busy trying to analyze and understand everything that I miss the simple beauty of just believing.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
But this conversation is reminding me that it doesn't have to be an either situation.
Yeah.
We can embrace both. So what does all of this mean for the listener? What's the takeaway here?
I think it's just a powerful invitation to consider the role of both faith and reason in their own lives. Are they approaching life with that sense of curiosity and openness? Or are they clinging rigidly to their existing beliefs? Are they allowing faith to inform their reasoning, and vice versa?
It's almost like a self-check, right?
It is.
Take a look at your own compass and see how it's guiding you. Maybe faith and logic aren't two separate paths, but two different lenses through which we view the same reality.
That's an interesting way to think about it.
And this whole discussion really challenges us to think about what we're investing in.
Yeah, it does.
Are we focused on the temporary and the material, or are we seeking something deeper, something more enduring?
It's about aligning our actions with our deepest values, seeking fulfillment in something greater than ourselves. That line from the text, "Why spend money on what is not bread and your labor on what does not satisfy?" It's so powerful.
It really makes you think about your priorities.
It does. What are we chasing after? What are we building our lives on?
Yeah, sometimes I think we get so busy chasing after stuff.
We do.
That we forget to ask ourselves those bigger questions.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day hustle and lose sight of what truly matters.
I'm having a light bulb moment right now.
Yeah.
This has been incredibly thought-provoking, and I'm not even sure I'm fully processing it all yet.
Me too. It's amazing how a single excerpt can spark so much reflection.
I know.
And I think the real beauty of this text is that it doesn't give us all the answers.
Right.
but it asks the right questions.
It does.
Questions that can continue to challenge and inspire us long after we finished reading.
Absolutely. It's not about arriving at a final destination, but embracing that process of exploration and discovery.
Well said. Speaking of exploration, I have a feeling this conversation is going to stay with me for a while.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's given me a lot to think about. And for everyone listening, I hope this deep dive has kind of sparked some curiosity for you too.
Yeah.
Maybe challenge some assumptions about faith and reason.
I think it's a good reminder that you don't have to choose between logic and belief.
Right.
You can use both.
Yeah.
And that's where you find the most fulfilling answers.
It's like we're encouraged to engage our heads and our hearts, approach life's big questions with intellectual rigor, but also that sense of wonder.
Exactly.
That faith brings.
Finding that balance, that harmony between what we know and what we believe.
Yeah.
And maybe when we open ourselves up to that, we discover something truly extraordinary.
Ooh, I like that. A little mystery to keep us going. To wrap things up, I want to circle back to that final question the text poses. If faith is an elevation of reason, what higher